Hello there. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gala, and today we are talking at least about the English books, which I, call maybe my best reads of 2025. As in, they are the stories I remember best. As in, I have a very good memory of things I have read. Those are going to be the books I have a clearer memory about. And that pile is not small. I'm going to talk about at least, like, let's say 6 book titles, but some, or at least one of them, is standing as a representative of an entire trilogy, because I don't want to pick up the entire trilogy because it's just too heavy. So, anyways, let's get down to business. First one, which I have here, is Sophie Clark's Cruelest Flight, which is a story set in France and Italy, but it is somewhat of a alternative universe where some of the people are granted, I say, a certain type of magic or ability due to their inheritance, family wise, but there are also demons, and I love demons. I am, and I'm loving how the story progresses, and I'm also very looking forward to the sequel, which is coming out in, I think, 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. I have pre-ordered. Merciful is the night, and yeah, I really loved the dynamic between Celine and Julian, and the entire banter, and that they get to know each other. Also, that the friends get to know Julian, and there's a lot of things happening also with fake identities, and a lot of secrets going to be revealed, which are world shattering. It was such an enjoyable book. I did tap a little bit, if you can see it. Wait, let me put the book very clearly in front of the camera. There you go. So that is the first book. Second one is the beginning of a duology, and the sequel is actually out, but I am still waiting for my delivery. It is late. It is it is late by a couple of days for now. I hope it is coming this week, as I am um, recording, and that is Modern Divination by Isa. You can see the name here. Yeah. Um, I also not pre-order, but I also ordered the hardback, because usually I'm the type of person, if I'm not certain I like I like a book, I order or buy them as a paperback, and if I really like them, I get them as a hardback if they available as hardback, of course. I don't know if you can see the tabs that clear, because they are almost the color of the pages, but I did tab throughout pages. I'm going to put that over to the hardback and donate, or just, yeah, the paperback. But anyways, that's my second book, which I really liked. I seriously loved the dynamic between Teddy and Aurelia, and also how Aurelia learns so much about herself, and learns a lot of that your decisions have consequences, and sometimes with things, when you think like you're dabbling throughout the safe options, that they are not always the best options, and it's such an undertaking, just how Teddy is like getting things out of Aurelia. It's lovely. There's a lot happening, and adventure and magic. I seriously love how the magic system is implemented in our world. It's like urban fantasy, and I think this is such a very good way of presenting urban fantasy, in my opinion. Yeah, that was Modern Divination, and we are going over to a next series. Next here is one of my first books which I read by this author, which is Ava Reed. I have different books of them also here in my little home library, basically. But that is one of the books which really stood out to me in hindsight of the duology. A Study with Drowning had me shook. It had me gasping for air and drifting into the mind of Effie and also a little bit of into the mind of Preston. I seriously like how Effie is facing her fears in this book and gets to know that maybe not all fairy tales your parents tell you are straight out lies. Maybe there is some truth in it. There were also quite some quotes which I liked. I don't know if you can see that. If I put it like this, maybe you can see the tabs because they are bright yellow, but what I try to do by now is put the tabs far enough in that you can visibly see them, but they are not standing out of the book, but not that they are as obvious at the first sight as I used to be. And I just like to do this because it's like having a little bit of a little secret, but not making it too secretive. That is why it's also one of my top reads, also one of my favorites of the duology. Next in line is the beginning of a graphic novel trilogy, which is the Tea Dragon Society. It's pretty thin, it's something you can really read quickly, and I am also going to reread this year, plus read the other two books because I'm finally having a complete series here and I can't just like binge read them in one go. I really love the way things, like the way it's illustrated, also how it is, even though it's very short. It is portraying a story that you also have a little bit of magic in it. I must be honest, last year I did read quite some fantasy titles. Like, most of the things had fantasy elements. It's simply one of my comfort genre. And also I love dragons, and that's also what got me. Also, I love tea. I do. And a combination of tea and dragons and making that entire species, chef's kiss. It's also portraying very nicely how friendships develop and that you simply get to know people and that there's like it's not the biggest like the very biggest um focal point, but that there's a little bit of a secretive society, a very small little group of friends mix. Yeah, it's such a nice mix. Definitely love to read that. And now we're coming to the thing, um, which is going to be a representative of a trilogy which I read last year. It is Hannah Kana's trilogy of the Fallen Gods series, and in this case, I'm having Godkiller as a representative. The way this story is written from multiple POVs is like something which might not be something which everyone enjoys, but I did because you had clear cuts from the POVs. It's not like they are overlapping and you have to question yourself, okay, in which person's mind are we? Because not only are the chapters like there's a header or saying, yeah, this is this person and this person, but they do have their own voices. One of the trickier ones throughout the trilogy was the dynamics between Alogast and Aaron. I must be honest, that is something I am a little bit critiquing, but overall, because my enjoyment has been much higher than the little things which I critique. It's not a perfect series, but it's perfect enough for me, even through its flaws. It's also one of the series which made me go and get tattooed. If you've seen that in my tattoo tour, I got a tattoo on my calf, well, on the outside of my lower leg, calf wise, and that is Skitty. Skitty is like the miniature god who is a very big point of this trilogy and one of my absolute favorite characters. I love how he is growing from his insecurities to his true identity, because one thing you have to know about him is he doesn't remember who he was. Him finding out who he is such an interesting journey because he has also a chance to become better than what he might have been before. I loved the series. I did. So yeah, that's so much to Godkiller actually. Last but absolutely not least, it is one of the books which I read to the end of this past year, and that is A Cell for the Wild Build. I also really liked this second book of his duology because I love how friendships are depicted in books, and sometimes even humble, slow beginnings leave the most meaningful impressions on someone. And this entire book, even though it's very short, let's say it's short enough that you can like read it throughout a couple of days. It seriously makes you think because it has such philosophical features and questions and makes you really think of humans as what is their nature like, is something we need, really something we actually need, or is it just something we want? The difference between what do we want and what do we need, and is there a overall thing which we can how do I phrase this, is there an overall need which needs to be met before we can process to something else which is maybe on our line of needs? And yeah, it's such an intriguing adventure to watch sibling Dax and Moss Cap, yeah, to see them undertake this entire travel and adventure and figuring out what the answer is to this question, if there is actually an answer to this question. That is something I'm leaving in the room. But with duology, if anybody needs something which makes you think but also is short enough that you don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is maybe too much for my brain, because it's also a little bit cozy, or most of it is cozy enough, please read this book. It's so good. And those are my top best reads of 2025, the ones which left their impression on me. You can gladly type below in the comment section what books, and I'm going to say plural because there's never just one book, but books which left their impressions on you throughout 2025 to maybe even this year. And it can be positive or negative. And if you're not in the mood to actually write anything down, that's totally fine. If you made it at least to the end of this video, just comment a fox emoji in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. So, bye bye.